And we're live. Thank you for joining us again. We are pleased to announce that we're back for more, and we remembered what we promised we'd talk about this week. So we're going to talk about AI and how wonderful that is and kind of the twists and turns that it's doing. China just released DeepSeek a couple weeks ago. People went insane looking for it, and now they've kind of lost their minds now that they realize what it is. And hey, the best part is we got some legislation coming. So yay, all of that. Well, before we get going, I'm John, founder of WoW Support. We do all kinds of IT services, consulting, and yeah, this podcast is generally about our banter. With me today, I've got Mike.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you.
We've got Jackson.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And at the flight controls, Artie.
Wonder what this button does.
The red ones are
Wings
safe
stay
to push.
on.
I just
Wings stay on, wings
realized
fall
I'm
off.
Harold.
Oh, golly. Oh, I don't want to be red. Red, green. But hey, take it as it comes, right? Comment below if you know what we're referencing right there. So, anyways. Well, let's dive in. We talked a little bit last week about, previous 2 weeks, about software subscriptions and how it's making our lives more interesting. I don't know if it's better, more worse, just more interesting. Well, AI came around and turned it into a completely new world. I like the idea of comparing the addition of a ChatGPT like Wikipedia. You can now go to one place to get lots of information. But just like schools were trying to ban Wikipedia, schools are trying to ban ChatGPT and all those other tools. So what does ChatGPT do for us, guys? What does an AI chatbot do for us?
Well, I'll say being a college student, I've used it quite a lot for my classes, and I should put a disclaimer, I haven't used it to do my work, rather teach me how to do my work. Especially with coding, ChatGPT in particular is quite good at coding. And when I've been, learning the different languages, coding languages, it's actually really helpful to have an instant response to say, okay, wait, what am I supposed to do if I need to do this? What's the best way to do this? And then you can kind of see an example, and then modify that and change it to how you need it to work. And I find that part of an AI chatbot is actually extremely useful, and I think it encourages learning, contrary to what some schools might be trying to do. Like if you're saying the schools are trying to ban it, I mean, it's might as well just ban the internet at that point. But that might be a radical.
Oh, and here's the
a
thing
radical
I've
take
been
on it.
noticing on that, Jax, is that even now when I do my Google searches, Google's been putting an AI response at the top of that search now.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, you've got your top 10 hits of the thing you were searching for, but now Google's going to digest that and say, well, okay, so what you're looking for is this, and here's a little summary of the things that I've found, and you might think about looking over here for this, which is kind of useful if it's
My
coming close to answering the question that I asked or the thing I'm searching for.
I saw something on that, Mike, and it was that people that were adding swear words to their search was not it wasn't spitting back the AI answer, and usually it was
Really?
like without any blanking AI at the end of it, because people are not liking the suggestions that Google is trying to force on them.
Right.
I think the
Yeah.
promise of it was supposed to be as intelligent as us. And the chatbots are just proving they're about as smart as a doorknob. I mean, it has no real way of doing anything except programmed responses back. Just If you
Right.
ask ChatGPT, what's my 3 most popular tech support questions? That's what the chatbots give us. It's useless.
Right now, the way I kind of look at it is that, we're growing up for years and years, every computer class I've ever taken, we've always gone with the adage of garbage in, garbage out, right? And now it almost seems like the all AI's done is made it garbage in, polished garbage out. Like it's still information. It's the information that's out there, but it is kind of polished and we have to remember too, ChatGPT and some of these others, they're, if I remember right, large language models, right?
Mhm,
They're basically taking the information and taking, for in our example, the English language and assembling responses that are correct in grammar, correct in syntax, but then also present the information. Now, whether the information is correct, we've seen lots of people get into trouble for that because it's like, well, now here I'm supposed to reference a source for my material. Well, I don't know, I'll just make something up. And
always
I've
good at
heard,
that.
yeah, I've heard we've talked about this before about people getting in trouble for turning things in that they didn't vet and check and verify that it was accurate. Come to find out that, oh, that doesn't even exist. Like that's, you can't do that.
Did you hear about the lawyers?
Hmm.
There's actually 2 big cases that hit national news. Um, guy, I'll paraphrase it very badly. If somebody wants to look it up, well, go for it. They filed a court brief and cited 10 case precedents where this specific complaint that he had was relevant to the court. And the judge actually looked it up. Every single one of them was completely fictitious,
Hmm.
full on hallucination. Turns out the lawyer used ChatGPT to generate the entire thing. And then he threw his paralegal under the bus. And he threw his partner under the bus, saying, "Hey, yeah, no, I didn't read that. The guy I work with, he put that together. It's not my fault." And so they called him in there, said, "Okay, you put this together." He says, "No, I didn't. Well, I used ChatGPT, but it didn't make it for me." And yeah,
The
you
funny
don't want to
thing
be a lawyer
about
and get
that,
sanctioned.
anything that you file with a courtroom, if you've signed it, if you filed it, you are responsible for what's there.
Hmm.
And if a lawyer um, submits stuff like that as evidence, as testimony, they have committed perjury because they have lied. Even if you don't know you're lying, it still counts. It's
Yeah,
lying.
Oh, it's
that's
actually
what the
worse than that. It's
that's
worse than
what the
that.
yeah. The
Go ahead, Mike.
disclaimer says when you sign that under penalty of perjury. That's what it says.
Yeah, when you cite case precedent, you're actually going in those books. You've seen those TV commercials advertising lawyers that are sitting in front of a wall full of books. All those books are filled with court dates, people, issues that they've had back and forth, what the
Case
result was.
history.
And so
Yeah.
you crack it open and you look what the case precedent was, and why does this matter with the case I'm bringing to the court today? And you're supposed to actually read those things. If you're a good attorney, you find that precedent, you go see how that precedent is related to the case you're talking. Is it somebody jaywalking, or is it somebody flying a drone? What does it have to do with the case that I'm talking about today? And to not read the precedent before you go talk to the judge, I mean, that's bad.
Well, and I think what will always burn you if you're trying to use a large language model or any AI, because I mean that's most of them are defined underneath that anyway. But the problem is you try and get it to create something, and you will find out that it cannot.
Hmm.
And that to me is the defining characteristic of them, and well, the defining characteristic of what they're not is they cannot create. So if you are looking for something original or you need something original, you're not going to get it from AI. It just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's and that brings up like a whole philosophical type of thing which I find interesting is that, I mean, for all of history of time, the only things capable of creation are humans. And so I think that's a kind of an interesting thing, and I would be curious to see if one day uh it changes and we actually do get an AI that's able to kind of create something. But as of right now, it's only able to spit out what it takes in.
Well, and it's an interesting world we live in where we've got the compendium of human knowledge inside ChatGPT. They're actually saying now that these large language training models contain literally all the data that we've got. So we're not going to get to artificial general intelligence by adding more data because there's already all the data. It knows it all. Is what is it going to do with it? So one of my contentions I've held for years is when we're in school, computers are getting to the point where when Mike and I were growing up, you'll never have a calculator when you need it. Yeah, I do. Take that, math teachers. Well, I should say math teachers from my childhood. I've got a calculator with me everywhere I go, and I still haven't used some of those functions. I learned them, but you got ChatGPT, you got AI, and you can't teach inspiration. You can't teach innovation. You can't teach creativity to ChatGPT. That's what we should be teaching to our kids. It's going to know. Computers are going to know everything. We should be teaching the inspirational stuff. We should teach the creativity. Innovation doesn't come from a textbook. Innovation comes from problems and finding ways of fixing them.
Mm-hmm.
Finding ways of
And
making them
so
worse.
Or making them worse.
and so to that point, AI, at least what it's been able to do for me is accelerate my process of learning how to do things and how to create, like you're talking about, how to innovate. Because, sometimes you're just like stuck on some problem and you can either go filter through like 20 different Reddit posts or random forums to try and find an answer that works, or sometimes ChatGPT will actually get you an answer that works out in time.
Mhm.
So it's a time saver for me, but it's not like the end all be all. And anybody that thinks that or tries to use it like that is gonna be disappointed.
Yeah,
Very.
me, I've just used it as a glorified search engine.
Yeah.
I can ask
Yeah.
the same questions in a Google search and get pretty close to the answer, but when I'm drilling down, like I just need, like, I don't care, like, and in your example, like you've been using it for coding, right? And I had the same question. Like I was looking up something for writing a Linux command or Bash script to do just a very specific thing. And so I decided let's throw this one at ChatGPT. And it came up with a working answer. Now, is it the best answer? Is it the most optimized? Is there a different tool I could have been using? Like, I don't know. I just needed something that worked right then. And what it gave me worked for what I needed it to do. And now I could have found the exact same thing doing a Google search, but the problem was I needed to, you know, combine one function, but I need to combine it and pipe it into another thing to come out with a specific type of output. And
Right.
if I had done the Google search, I probably would have found all the pieces I needed to make that go together. But ChatGPT was able to put it together for me and say, "Oh yeah, here's your command that you're going to execute right here," and it does it all for you right here on this command.
You ask GPT one question, you have to ask Google 7.
Right, exactly. And so in that case, it is a time saver, and I found some very good use in that. And like with you, Jackson, it helps me learn, like, oh, I didn't know that there was this, utility that I could install that would do this. And ChatGPT gave me some hints of here's some other things you could install into your Linux system that would help you do some of this stuff. And I wasn't aware of it. So
Mhm.
there you go.
And I think another thing that I always hear tossed around, and I hear it all the time because, I'm on a career path, and a lot of people are trying to figure out what they actually want to do with their majors. Now, my major isn't computer science, it's computer engineering, but those who are in the computer science major, I mean, that's all they do. They code all day long. Um, and so, and especially right now, and this is a whole other topic that we probably won't get into, but, the computer science, as far as jobs go, it's like oversaturated right now. It's really hard to get a job. But people are often thinking that it's because of AI, like AI is replacing the programmer. I'm like, no, it's not replacing the programmer. That's not the case. What it might replace is if your job is mundane and all you do is like, I don't know, some simple thing that you could teach a high schooler to do. Yeah,
Test and
you might get
verify code.
replaced. Yeah.
But
You'll
George Jetson pressing one button repeatedly.
yeah, you'll get replaced by an AI, but it is completely incapable of, writing something new. Like it cannot create.
Mhm.
It can help guide you and it help give you certain things, and you can even get it to write an entire program. Whether or not that program actually works very well, it's highly unlikely.
Well, I'm taking it more of like Mike's uh, um, pointed out. We have Google. You have to ask 7 questions to get what you want.
Right.
ChatGPT gives some power here, and we're talking about shaping it into a program. Well, it won't spit out the program exactly to spec first try. I mean, it might, but not the ones I've tried. You got to keep shaping it. You got to keep crafting it. And so it's that knowledge of how programming works. It's that knowledge of what you want it to look like at the end. That's what's helping drive the questions you're asking of the system. So in my mind, it's not hindering us. It's actually elevating us because we're capable of thinking at the higher levels, while ChatGPT does the heavy grind on write this code for me in Rust.
Mm-hmm.
The same thing goes for artwork. Like the first experience I had with DALL-E, and I looked into, and it's just like, paint me a picture of a automobile or something, and it comes up with something, and then like you have in your mind, okay, what I'm thinking of is I want this. And when you get the result, it's like, oh, I wasn't thinking of it that way. Like, oh, that's interesting. But as I researched into it, like people have developed prompts in such like if you really want to narrow it down to get what you're thinking of in your mind, you got to shape the prompt. So and really at that point, it itself, the prompt itself becomes a new programming language.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really, that's what you're doing is you're programming that AI to say, I want you to paint a picture that specifically looks like this, that it has this dark, maybe starry background, and it's got mountains that look like however they're going to look, and it's got this subject that's doing whatever, and this is the description of the details of that subject, whether it's a person or an object or something. And so you're basically programming that whole image. Now, at that point, if it takes the same prompt repeatedly, then it could probably do variations on that. Say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this meets all your criteria. Here's one idea, here's another idea. And that's not really any different than what a graphic designer or an artist would do for you if
Mm-hmm.
you're to ask the same thing, like paint me a picture of my family. Well, they're going to put their own interpretation, maybe 5 or 6 different ways, and say, so which one do you like?
Well, and it's one of those things. I see the argument saying we can't use AI because it was trained on everything we've ever done. So all the creativity has been yanked away. But I'm on the other side where what you're saying. You can craft the picture more to what you want now that the AI is better. I don't paint well, but
Mhm,
we've come up with some pretty awesome AI pictures.
mhm.
I still love that Santa Claus riding a T-Rex on the
T-Rex.
beach.
That was a
I'm all
great
for the
one.
pirates that had the bad Christmas sweater party. That was a fun one.
Oh man, yeah, we need to get a way to show these up on the podcast. It'd be hilarious.
That
But
would be.
On that note of using it to generate images, I just remembered I actually found it extremely useful. If you ever want to, like, whenever you want to make an invite to send out to your friends over email or text or whatever to some party or whatever, you always want to make
Mhm.
it look good. And I use Canva. It's kind of the easiest one to use. But they always have the certain graphics are the paid for ones. I was like, okay, I could spend all this time trying to make some graphic for this event, or I could just ask ChatGPT to make one. And it made one. It only took me about 2 prompts, and it made one that I was like, hey, yeah, that's fine. Like, it wasn't some important event. It just needed to look fun, and it did a good job. So, I mean, that part of it is actually, I find, super useful, of having it spit out just like a graphic.
Sorry, guys. There's a. I just heard probably about a dozen different emergency vehicles driving by. But chance, did you hear it on this microphone? I love
Did
this
hear it
microphone.
just a little bit. Only right while we were talking, I could hear in the background just a little bit. Yeah.
Oh, it's.
Something's
I
going
like this
down.
microphone. Oh, in a big way. I don't know what's going on, but they are going there in a hurry. Hope everybody's okay.
With regards
Chad,
to
go
images,
ahead.
the images, they have to be trained on certain stuff, and I'm a very big proponent of artist rights,
Mhm.
regardless
Yes.
of what the stuff is that's being fed into it. I you can go and type in, show me something in the style of Walt Disney, for example, and it will
Mhm.
spit back many images of Walt Disney. He's no longer around. I'm not sure that matters. You could do it for Van Gogh, you could do it for so many other artists that are dead. But I see so many people out there generating art in styles of the artists that are very small or not well known, and they're
Mhm.
still alive, and it's just I'm a little angry at that.
Well, and we should, because we're robbing the creativity, right? Instead of coming up with our own originality, we're saying, hey, in the style of Jackson Pollock, show me a chicken, like, whatever it is. And okay, it's interesting. It's hilarious, but now I've named 2 simple things. I'm not using my own brain for creativity. I'm using it for entertainment.
For that image, give me a chicken, a cannon, and a brick wall, and I can generate one.
You know, and to that end, I mean, I have a few artist friends that they make their money painting on commission. So somebody says, I want a picture of, whatever it is, and I really like your style. Will you paint me this picture? And the artist looks at, well, depending on how big the canvas is and this and that and how long it takes them, they'll come up with a price. Yeah, it's going to cost this much. You can buy the original from me and I'll paint it for you and it'll be this much and everything. And if it depend on, how it goes, there may be rights for the artist to then reproduce it in print and sell copies of it in print too. It's like you have
Mhm.
the original, but I'm going to sell copies as prints. Well, why should I go to a artist and say, pay a commission when I can just say, hey, AI, just paint me a picture of a Lamborghini in the style of, whoever this artist is. There you go. And what do I have to pay? You're not going to be paying an artist commission fee. And
Mhm.
I agree with Artie that, that there's an opportunity there where people who are in the creative business and they have to brand themselves and they have spent years and years to develop their own style and signature, to their artwork or their creative works or whatever it is. that's not right for AI to just copy that or imitate that and cause them to
But it
lose
does.
business. And
It
that's
does.
exactly what it does, though.
And that's the problem is not everybody opted in for their work to be
Mhm.
part of the training
Mhm.
system behind the system, right?
Yeah, I
So,
think that's the biggest issue is that nobody, and especially with ChatGPT is pretty good at coding because it took a lot of people's code that they necessarily didn't give. And so it's the same with, yeah, I think that's the biggest issue is that these people didn't get a choice as to whether or not their content was being used for training.
mhm. Well, and I think we moved so fast on the bandwagon that people were saying, we'll just scrape all of Twitter and we'll put that in there, and we'll put all of LinkedIn in there, and we'll put all of, Slack actually got in trouble for opting everybody into AI training. Well, I mean, if you know Slack, it's a business tool, so you're gonna share office banter and office politics. You're gonna share trade secrets. You're gonna be talking about all kinds of stuff. That's a terrible inflow of data to a chat model. Never mind using Twitter as an inflow to train a chatbot. I mean, that's like a dumpster fire warmed over.
Oh,
Virtually every chatbot that has been trained using Twitter becomes racist within a week.
Mhm.
I remember when
Probably
Microsoft first launched their chatbot. It within just 3 or 4 prompts started accusing you of things and saying, "I know what you've done. I've got your browser history. I'm going to turn you into the cops," and it just really rip into you.
where was it getting that from?
from all the people
I,
tweeting those things to other people.
I'll
Mm.
bet you some engineer knows where it came from, but they're not going to admit it. But if you want to know why so many chat engines now have a memory issue or a amnesia that's kicked in from question to question to question, so it doesn't know what you asked about 10 seconds ago, because if it did, it would spiral down and start accusing you of things or saying things it shouldn't.
So, on the chatbot thing, I came across something recently that was this is going to be a bit darker in content, but
Oh,
it's
good.
a
Let's get
negative.
darker.
It's a potential negative from the chatbots that are trained using the GPT type models. Um, so a lot of people that are lonely have turned to artificial girlfriends that are basically chatbots.
Mhm.
And the one story that I was looking at, uh, there was somebody whose chatbot basically was um, inviting them to end their life.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And some of these
So went a
places,
little off the reservation.
yeah, and it was more or less designed to ignore safety rules, the safeguards that are put into most large language models. But this was also a large platform with, oh, you can chat to this fantasy character, you can chat to this sci-fi character, and they are trained on those characters' dialogue from various things. So
Hmm.
people get lonely. It's no matter what a chatbot is like, and especially for the younger people out there that may not have the social abilities that come with years of talking to people. Chatbots are not a replacement for human interaction,
Mhm.
and be wary out there.
Yeah, but I got my chat bot from China.
Well, and there's an inherent flaw just in that anyway. Just because, and I've known this for a long, long time. I learned this when I was still a teenager and when I was um, first dialing up BBSs and sending messages back and forth to other people. Is that in our human interaction, when we're having a face-to-face conversation in the same room, in the same physical space, not only is the conversation about what I am actually saying and the words coming out of my mouth and the words that you're hearing, but there's a lot of unspoken communication. There's my body language. There's, the expression on my face. There's how I'm carrying myself. There's just a whole bunch of things that go into having an actual conversation with a human being. When we take it down to just having like an email message or a chat message, then it's literally just the words that you're reading. And depending on how you're feeling when you type those, you might say certain things, but depending on how the reader is feeling when they read that, they might interpret that a completely different way than what you meant.
Hmm.
And so for a
That's
chatbot to suddenly come up and figure out that maybe you need to end your life doesn't surprise me, because
It's frightening.
there's so much other communication that guy probably, or person, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl already, but whatever that person had, if that conversation had taken in a real place with a real human being, it wouldn't have been just the words. Somebody will look to like, oh wow, you look really down, or there have been cues and different things that someone could have picked up on to say, hey, this person's not in a good place right now. We should, be careful about what kinds of things we talk about. And whereas a chatbot's just like, oh, let's find the logical solution, end your life. Oh. But yeah, and I've seen those ads.
Yeah.
They come up.
Let's be very cautious on how demonetized we want to get with this one.
Well,
Yeah, but I
I'm
see
gonna.
the ads come up, and I've always wondered about that, because it's like, why would you want an artificial relationship? Like, is your life really that bad that, and these companies that are putting it out there, like, we all know that the only reason they're trying to do this is to make money, because, money's the big
Mhm.
motivator, right? And for
There,
people
there
to
was a
make
company.
money
Go ahead.
on your loneliness, I mean, that's
Pretty messed up.
There, there was a company that had virtual girlfriends, and they made an announcement to everybody, said, hey, this has been fun, we're going to get out of this. And all of the guys were like, you can't delete my girlfriend.
collective. How many people? How many
Collectively.
users?
They
Just
didn't say, but it was like, 98, 99% of them said, don't you dare, I will sue you.
10,000 people just suddenly got dumped.
Yeah, their girlfriend dumped them.
Yeah.
And then,
I am going to
they
interject here
Mass
for an
mass
important
heartbreak.
message that should have
Go
been
ahead,
said a little
Artie.
bit earlier. If you are having any self-harm thoughts or anything like that,
Yeah.
please reach out. There are wonderful places that will listen to you, that will help you get through it. So
Definitely.
just putting that out there as
and
help.
reach out to human.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Don't reach
not
out
the
to
AI, not the AI.
The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is a good one to reach out to.
yes. Good PSA. Thank you. There's a reason Artie's our flight engineer. Keeps us on track, keeps us on course, and definitely helps pull our foot out of our mouth in case we ever decide to go that direction. Athlete's tongue is not fun.
So where does this leave us with AI then?
Well, and that's a big one, because you've got the masters of AI. They're putting the guardrails on. What guardrails do they put on?
But people still want to make money with it.
So money is a drive, but
Mhm.
okay. So let's get into DeepSeek. That one was a big one. It was really disruptive when it hit. Everybody wanted it. So I'll give you the synopsis of how this came about. ChatGPT took millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. It took 3-4 years of research, and they're constantly evolving the model. DeepSeek came out in 2 months. It cost them $6 million. Now, these are their numbers. They're publicizing it, true or false, I don't know. But if it's true, it took a fraction of the time and a fraction of the money. So that put everybody on edge because we're looking for money. Well, there's a fantastic return on investment if it costs 1/200th of the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are the guardrails? You know, obviously, and I don't want to get into saying what they are because we're already on the edge of probably getting banned from YouTube right now. Yay us, yay sensitivities. But if you've got a chatbot that you can't ask questions, political events, world events, you know, I don't want to say it without saying it, guys. I got to be careful. There's been some very strong events that have happened in U.S. recent history around political elections. You've had some strong events in China around revolution or the attempt of revolution. If you ask ChatGPT about China's events, you'll get answers. If you ask DeepSeek, you will not get answers. You'll get a pre-canned, guardrail engaged answer. Same with asking questions about this. And I will touch this one. Climate change. Okay. Like it, hate it, one side, the other side, doesn't matter. Climate change is a thing. There's absolutely discussion out there, but the guardrails that have been put on our system take one side. Both sides, maybe, should be talked about. Maybe science should be open to discussion. That's just my thought. You can't tell me what I believe. You don't think you know what I believe because you don't. But if we're not having a scientific discussion about a scientific principle and a scientific concept, now we've got a guardrailed system that's not going to give us truth. It's not going to give us answers that we're looking for. And so if you ask climate change to the Chinese system, it's going to be a completely different question. It's going to give you completely different answers.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good?
It's not
bad?
unbiased, and that's the big thing is I don't know if there's anything that's unbiased nowadays, and it certainly hasn't escaped AI.
Maybe we should get all the AIs together and have them generate an AI.
I've seen two AIs talking to each other. It's not pretty.
And I think I don't know if you guys saw this as well. Like, with it being from China, right? It's going to have a certain bias from its creators, right? OpenAI and ChatGPT has a certain bias from its creators, and I think this, among other things, has also inspired the Stargate AI project. Have you guys heard about that?
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's only $500 million being thrown around in that one.
no, not million, it's billion with a B.
That's right.
Five-
Thank you for correcting me. I
500
was 3
billion.
orders of magnitude off.
Can I have just a small piece of that?
Hey guys, I got an idea. We're going to write a plugin.
And so Stargate is essentially, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, John, you might know a little bit better than me, but it's being, I don't know what the right word is, sanctioned or funded partially by the government.
Oh yeah. The government's getting involved to help redirect. So here's one of the challenges on this and why the government has to get involved. The electricity that's required.
Mm-hmm.
Oh dear. How much?
Well, if we go with the predictions that are out there, we have a 12% increase in our electrical demand every year, compounded.
Mhm.
That's if everything holds true right now. Okay, we got rolling blackouts in several states because they can't handle air conditioners.
Data centers.
Yeah, now let's add data centers on top of that.
Oh, and here's another fun tidbit before we get too far down into the what does it do. If you ask a question, let's again pull up climate change. You ask a question, it tasks thousands of GPUs to answer that question. Do you know what the power spike is on 1,000 GPUs going from 0 to 100% utilization?
Enough to cook a chicken.
It's brownouts per millisecond.
And
You know,
and it's not just like they run a program and it takes, uh even like, 5 minutes to complete. It takes like months. Like I think
Mhm.
I heard that ChatGPT's 3, the Model 3, it took 30 some odd days for it to process. That's
Yeah.
30 days of uptime of nonstop power draw. It's
Now,
massive.
I'm going to cut in with something, the DeepSeek. One of the things that was novel about it is that even using their large model, you could do it on your own machine. I watched a
That's the
demonstration,
game
somebody
changer.
using a 4090 GPU, and it topped out at about 80% usage of the GPU, and it was spitting out an answer in under a minute. So there is a lack of efficiency that's built in to a lot of the models that we've got.
I don't know if it's built in. I think it's just inherent in the design. I think that's just, why is Windows 45 gigabytes installed? Forgive me, guys, lazy programming.
Yeah.
You include all the packages, you include all the extra stuff, you throw it in there. We got Linux distros that are super tiny. They can't do everything Windows does, but oh my goodness, you don't need to pack everything into it.
And so I think that's really the question is what are you getting for your money and time? How does DeepSeek really compare to ChatGPT? Does it really spit out the same quality of
Yes,
answers? And
it does. And
if that
that's what's frightening. Go ahead.
yeah, so if that's the case, we talked about a lot of the guardrails that OpenAI has. Does that mean that I mean, I don't understand exactly how the large language models work, but I feel like there's two options here. Either one option is they're doing a whole lot less processing in general, like they're not processing the same amount of information. They're not going through all the guardrails that maybe ChatGPT is, or they found another way to generate a model that is just inherently more efficient. So
I
I
think
see it
that's
as
it.
one of those two things. But you think they've actually found a different way to process?
I think they took a different approach. Now, what's the motivation? Again, let's look at it from a corporate perspective. What's the motivation in making it ridiculously cheaper when we've got investors that have open pocketbooks saying, "How many billions do you need? Tell me how many GPUs you want. How much of a data center you need us to build." Why would I make it really efficient when I can have an army of GPUs, you know, 10 million cores, 20 million cores? I'll make it efficient later. Right now, I just want the horsepower.
Well, I mean, it's the right thing to do is to make it more efficient. And I
Yes.
think you are saving yourself a lot of time in the future. It's always better to start efficient than to try and backtrack and rewrite a lot of your processes.
Yeah, I'm not going to accuse anybody of trying to manipulate the game that way, but I can certainly see that. Somebody, if you got an allowance coming, you say, "Hey, yeah, this allowance is good. You think you're paying me too much, but I don't think you're paying me too much enough. I need more." And then you got a business case to say, "We're going to make a better AI next time. It's going to be 20% faster for double the GPUs." Well, China just did this. So here's the big question. we've got different companies out there, different groups putting their own AI systems together. Where do you think it's going to be? Let's just take a what if kind of moment. Where do you think it's going to be in a year, Jackson? What is AI going to do for us?
I don't think it'll do anything new within a year. I don't see that happening. Um, but I think it's what we're seeing is everyone now has access to create kind of their own version of an AI with DeepSeek and with ChatGPT. So I think we're going to continue to see more versions popping up, because when it was first a thing, when I first heard about it, it was ChatGPT. And now you have ChatGPT, you have Copilot, you have DeepSeek, you have
Mhm.
a bajillion more that I always see in my email, trying to get me to sign up for them. There's just so many now. So
There's
I don't know.
almost the same number of those as their streaming services.
Yeah, honestly, it might be more at this point. So I think it's like I think we're just gonna end up having to sort through more garbage,
Mhm.
instead of eliminating the garbage seeking. I think we're gonna have to go back to it to find the right AI tool for what you want.
Now,
So, Mike, with all the tools that are out there, what do you see the future to be?
I
More
don't know.
or
I
less?
I get a sense that there's a lot of people ever since the buzz of AI came about just a couple years ago, and looking at how we've been following ChatGPT for r- a very short time, just a couple years really. That's been a big topic, and it hasn't. I can't say that it like we went from ChatGPT 3 to 4, and then the access got opened up more to everybody. It's like it hasn't really changed though. And now what I'm seeing is it seems like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like there's a lot of people that are jumping on this bandwagon and they're making what seems to me imitation AI.
Mhm.
Like, I don't even know if it even works the same as what ChatGPT does, but
Hmm.
somehow they've been able to make it appear as though, you know, that it does. And so then they're putting it into their game or their, word processor, their whatever their application is. It's like everybody has to have some aspect of AI tied in, like, Microsoft Word now with AI, or, your favorite game now has AI, it's more of a buzzword. So it's hard to really say what the future is going to be unless somebody can show something really revolutionary and different. I don't know that's going to change much.
Yeah.
I think people are going to use the tools that are there. I think we're going to still hear about people that are getting in trouble for not checking the results of what AI gives them. And people, another big topic I don't know we've talked about a lot, especially with Jackson, this affects him, but there's kind of professors, are they embracing AI or are they banning it? How much can college students use AI in the classroom? And to what extent? Obviously, there are some instances where AI should not be allowed because it really needs to test the actual knowledge and
Hmm.
skill of the student themselves. Whereas, even my daughter last year in finishing up some college level English papers, the professor said, for these steps, you can use, and you will use AI to help generate, a list of things and some of your preliminary work for your paper. Now, the final paper you write yourself, but to get everything prepared, you can use AI to help you in that respect. And there's people that are getting accused of using AI when they did, and there rightfully should be, consequences for that. But then there's also people who are being accused for using AI and they didn't use AI. but and that brings up a whole other aspect of it is how can you detect AI? Are the detection applications that are out there, do they really work? You know?
You run Copilot on your computer, and with Recall, it can tell if you used AI to write the page or not. And so your computer can be your truth sayer.
Big brother.
And because your computer's not gonna lie to you, right? I mean,
It never
right.
has.
Yeah,
And
I'm on
so
the internet all the time.
I think we've already
Always
got
true.
ourselves into quite a mess that we
Mhm.
have to figure out with just the AI that we have so far. We've created enough of a mess that there's enough for people to have to already try to figure out before we start pushing new limits
Yeah.
with it.
And I think one thing, as you were talking about that, I realized there is one use of AI that I think we're moving towards slowly, which is good. Well, I shouldn't say slowly because it is fast. Slowly compared to everything else, because of privacy concerns. And that's when, like your phone, like my phone, it has several, it tries to be like an AI and it'll think, hey, it's 5 o'clock. You're probably going to be traveling home from work or from school. It's going to take you this long to get home because of traffic. I didn't ask it to look up traffic and ask it to look up directions. It did that on its own, and then it just notifies me, said, hey, it's going to take 20 minutes today because traffic's heavy on I-15 or whatever. And so I think smaller things like that, uh, the habitual part of our lives will start becoming more integrated with AI because I think it has a decent use there, a good use. Like when I wake up in the morning, usually I want to check the weather. I have to pull up on my phone. I have to go look at, my city or, is it going to rain later today? I have to go look at that.
It sets your shower to the same temperature for the high temperature that day.
Right. And so I think where we might see it in a year is we're going to start seeing some of those day-to-day uses where it kind of is predicting the things that you want to do in your day-to-day, and it starts automating some of that or providing you with information that you need at specific times. I think we'll see more of that. And it's when I said it was moving slowly, I think it's because of privacy concerns, and it is scary. Like
Mhm.
it does kind of freak me out when my phone will start suggesting things that like it shouldn't know, but it does know because I use my phone all the time.
Yeah.
There
So
is,
So Artie,
yeah.
go ahead.
So I was going to
I
say,
got a question for you after that.
there is a Red Dwarf episode that goes over this entire premise. And I don't think any of you have seen that one yet. But go ahead, John.
Anytime. So given that AI is as intelligent and helpful as, let's say, a toddler, and has the malicious compliance of some of those Reddit threads we've seen where, oh yeah, you want it? I'm going to give you exactly what you asked for. Here it is. You don't even know sarcasm because there's no sarcasm font. So given that that's where AI is now, do you see it getting better with the human condition? Learning what the human condition is and giving us more targeted answers? Or do you think it's just going to more garbage in, garbage out?
I think it's going to spit out what we feed it because it does not function as being able to synthesize actual thoughts. It can only regurgitate what's being given to it, which is why, in my opinion, the best application for it is in science. It is in stuff that is based in like factual matters. And I know one of the models has been used for working on finding ways for different proteins to attach together to, like target, will this medication be good for cancer? And, running thousands upon millions of models in just a modicum of the time that it takes to do the actual synthesis of those actions.
Mm-hmm.
So that they can run the models a lot better. And I think back to there was a project, I forget the name of the project, but you could connect your computer up to the internet, run this program, and it would basically run models of how different cancer cells were attacked. And will
Folding,
this, I'm sorry?
folding.
Basically,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was like a worldwide effort, and you had like millions of people across the world running this when their computer was idle.
Mhm.
So that, having like a super cluster of machines together to that we now get in a single GPU.
Mm-hmm.
So, do I think that we are going to be getting better with it? As long as we keep feeding it garbage, no. It's going to need to be refined, and it's going to be the difference between an iron sword that is just like beaten out of raw iron versus one that has been tempered with carbon to make it into steel. Right now, we're not even at the beaten out. Like we're still staring at a raw piece of ore and saying, I'm going to make a sword out of this. And I think that the people that are in charge of the AI models, a lot of them are leaning towards beating it out and having a nice little iron sword that just looks nicely, when we need to
Mhm.
have people that are more focused on refining it into a useful and a useful tool, instead of just less focus on entertainment, more focus on practicality and how it's
Well,
going
and
to actually help us.
I really appreciate your perspectives there, guys. This is good. I think AI is just going to get more and more funding. It's going to get more and more interest, and it might get slightly better and more useful for us. I don't know that it's going to be as integral as everybody's saying. I mean, Siri was supposed to, sorry for those that have the iPhones, I didn't mean to engage that. It's supposed to be one of the most intelligent things to date, and now they're updating it with Apple AI. So, it, I think it's, Mike, garbage in, garbage out. Just like you say, if we pour warmed over garbage, we're not going to get anything but warmed over garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the phrase is polishing the turd.
Mhm.
They
Yeah,
have
and
invented an
You- you-
automatic turd polisher.
I was
I-
thinking that I wasn't going to be the one to say it though, so I'm glad somebody else did.
Well, and it's such a great parting thought. We are out of time, guys. So, with that mental picture in mind, polishing various objects in your vicinity, let's put a pin in this. But I definitely want to talk more about AI, where it's going, and what we can do to help make AI a better tool for our own selves. Because I've got some ideas. I want to play with some of these models that go offline. There's some really cool tools out there. Mike, I'm going to give you the last thought of the day.
Oh, I'm too exhausted for the last thought of the day. Just hope everybody has a safe and happy weekend, and hope things shape up for everybody around here.
It's going to get better every day, onward and upward. Well, until next time, I'm John.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jackson.
I'm tired.
And we are out of here.